What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, where since it's a new year, I'll be trying something new out. Alright? This year, I am going to read books for you guys. I love my normal movie reviews and rants and raves, but since I finally got a library card, I figured I might as well start off with a really great book that a lot of girls like. And you know what, man? I know you guys actually like it too. No need to be embarrassed about liking Twilight. By the way, it's Twilight. It's actually a great book. I like it a lot. It takes some getting a little bit to actually get into the book, but it's good. I'm hoping I can convince myself of that as well as I'm rereading this book. I want to read it like the series once in my life. So, wish me all the luck. And with further ado, let's dive in to Twilight. Preface. I'd never given much thought to how I'd die, though I'd had reason enough in the last few months. But even if I had, I would not have imagined it like this. I stared without breathing across the long room into the dark eyes of the hunter, and he looked pleasantly back at me. Surely, it was a good way to die. In the place of someone else, someone I loved. Noble, even. That ought to count for something. I knew that if I'd never gone back to Forks, I wouldn't be facing death right now. But, terrified as I was, I could not bring myself to regret that decision. When life offers you a dream so far beyond any of your expectations, it's not reasonable to grieve when it comes to an end. The hunter smiled in a friendly way as he sauntered forward to kill me. That was just a preface. And that's also what got me to turn it back into the library the first time I checked it out. School library in high school. Chapter 1. First Sight. My mother drove me to the airport with the windows rolled down. It was 75 degrees in Phoenix, the sky a perfect cloudless blue. I was wearing my favorite shirt, sleeveless, white eyelet lace. I'm not sure what that is. I was wearing it as a farewell gesture. My carry-on item was a parka. In the Olympic Peninsula of northwest Washington State, a small town named Forks exists under a near-constant cover of clouds. It rains on this inconsequential town more than any other place in the United States of America. That's a lot. A lot of rain. It was from this town and its glooming, omnipresent shade that my mother escaped with me when I was only a few months old. It was in this town that I'd been compelled to spend a month every summer until I was 14. That was the year I finally put my foot down. These past 3 summers, my dad, Charlie, vacationed with me in California for 2 weeks instead. It was to Forks that I now exiled myself. An action I took with great horror. I detested Forks. I loved Phoenix. I loved the sun and the blistering heat. I loved the vigorous, sprawling city. "Bella," my mom said to me, the last of 1,000 times before I got on the plane, "you don't have to do this." My mom looks like me, except with short hair and laugh lines. I felt a spasm of panic as I stared at her wide, childlike eyes. How could I leave my loving, erratic, harebrained mother to fend for herself? Of course, she had Phil now, so the bills would probably get paid. There would be food in the refrigerator, gas in her car, and someone to call her when she got lost. But still, "I want to go," I lied. I'd always been a bad liar, but I've been saying this lie so frequently lately that it sounded almost convincing now. "Tell Charlie I said hi." "I will." "I'll see you soon," she insisted. "You can come home whenever you want. I'll come right back as soon as you need me." But I could see the sacrifice in her eyes behind the promise. "Don't worry about me," I urged. "I'll be great. I love you, Mom." I can't really do my girl voice today because my voice is a little off. Sorry. She hugged me tightly for a minute, and then I got on the plane and she was gone. It's a 4-hour flight from Phoenix to Seattle. Another hour in a small plane up to Port Angeles, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And then an hour drive back down to Forks. Flying doesn't bother me. The hour in the car with Charlie, though, I was a little worried about that. Charlie had been fairly nice about the whole thing. He seemed genuinely pleased that I was coming to live with him for the first time with any degree of permanence. He'd already gotten me registered for high school and was going to help me get a car. But it was sure to be awkward with Charlie. Neither of us knew what anyone would call verbose, and I didn't know what there was to say regardless. I knew he was more than a little confused by my decision. Like my like my mother before me, I hadn't made a secret for my distaste for forks. I hadn't made a secret of my distaste for forks. I feel like that could have been worded differently. Yeah. When I landed in Port Angeles, it was raining. I didn't see it as an omen. Just unavoidable. Sorry. I already said my goodbyes to the sun. Charlie was waiting for me with the cruiser. This I was expecting too. Charlie is Police Chief Swan to the good people of Forks. My primary motivation behind buying a car, despite the scarcity of my funds, was that I refused to be driven around town in a car with a red and blue lights on top. Nothing slows down traffic like a cop. Charlie gave me an awkward one-armed hug when I stumbled my way off the plane. "It's good to see you, Bells," he said, smiling as he automatically caught and steadied me. "You haven't changed much. How's Renee?" "Mom's fine. It's good to see you too, Dad." I'm gonna try to do Bella's voice. I can't really match Kristen Stewart's. I wasn't allowed to call him Charlie to his face. I had only a few bags. Most of my Arizona clothes were too permeable for Washington. My mom and I had pooled our resources to supplement my winter wardrobe, but it was still scanty. It all fit easily into the trunk of the cruiser. "I found a good car for you. Really cheap," he announced when we were strapped in. What kind of car? I was suspicious of the way he said "good car for you," as opposed to just "good car." "Well, it's a truck, really. Truck, actually. A Chevy." "Where did you find it?" "You remember Billy Black down at La Push?" La Push is a tiny Indian reservation on the coast. "No. He used to go fishing with us during the summer," Charlie prompted. That would explain why I didn't remember him. I did a good job of blocking painful, unnecessary things from my memory. "He's in a wheelchair now," Charlie continued when I didn't respond. "So he can't drive anymore, and he offered to sell me his truck cheap." "What year is it?" I could see from his change of expression that this was the question he was hoping I wouldn't ask. "Well, Billy's done a lot of work on the engine. It's only a few years old, really." I hoped he didn't think so little of me as to I believed I'd give up that easily. "When did he buy it?" "He bought it in 1984, I think." Did he buy it new?" "Well, no. I think it was new in the early 60s, or late 50s at the earliest," he admitted sheepishly. Dad, I don't really know anything about cars. I wouldn't be able to fix it if anything went wrong." and I couldn't afford a mechanic. Really, Bella, the thing runs great. I don't build them like that anymore. The thing? I thought to myself. I have possibilities as a nickname, at the very least. How cheap is cheap? After all, that was the part I couldn't compromise on. Well, honey, I kind of already bought it for you as a homecoming gift. Charlie peeked sideways at me with a hopeful expression. Wow, free. You didn't need to do that, Dad. I was going to buy myself a car. I don't mind. I want you to be happy here. He was looking ahead at the road when he said this. Charlie wasn't comfortable with expressing his emotions out loud. I inherited that from him. So I was looking straight ahead as I responded. That's really nice, Dad. Thanks. I really appreciate it. No need to add that my being happy in Forks is an impossibility. You didn't need to suffer along with me. And I never looked a free truck in the mouth, or engine. That just don't make no sense. Well, no. You're welcome, he mumbled, embarrassed by my thanks. We exchanged a few more comments on the weather, which was wet, and that was pretty much it for the conversation. We stared out the windows in silence. It was beautiful, of course. I couldn't deny that. Everything was green, the trees, their trunks covered with moss, their branches hanging with a canopy of it, the ground covered with ferns. Even the air filtered down greenly through the leaves. It was too green. An alien planet. Eventually, we made it to Charlie's. He still lived in a small 2-bedroom house that he bought with my mother in the early days of their marriage. Those were the only kinds of days of their marriage, the early ones. There, parked on the street, so I guess, and from the house that never changed, was my new to me, truck. It was faded in color. It was a faded red color, with big rounded fenders and a bulbous cab. To my intense surprise, I loved it. I didn't know if it would run, but I could see myself in it. Plus, it was one of those solid iron affairs that never gets damaged. The kind you see at the scene of an accident. Paint unscratched, surrounded by the pieces of the foreign car it has destroyed. Well, it's kind of fun. Wow, Dad, I love it. Thanks. Now my horrific day tomorrow will be just that. Yeah. The kind you see at. Now my horrific day tomorrow will be just that much less dreadful. I wouldn't be faced with that choice of either walking 2 miles in the rain to school or accepting a ride in that used cruiser. I'm glad you like it, Charlie said gruffly, embarrassed again. It took only one trip to get all my stuff upstairs. I got the west bedroom that faced out over the front yard. The room was familiar. It had belonged to me since I was born. The wooden floor, the light blue walls, the peaked ceiling, the yellowed lace curtains around the window. These were all a part of my childhood. The only changes Charlie had ever made were switching the crib for a bed and adding a desk as I grew. The desk now held a second-hand computer with the phone line for the modem stapled. The desk now had a second-hand computer with the phone line for the modem stapled along the floor to the nearest phone jack. This was a stipulation from my mother, so we could stay in touch easily. The rocking chair from my baby days was still in the corner. There was only one small bathroom at the top of the stairs, which I would have to share with Charlie. There was only one bathroom? What the hell? I was trying to dwell not too much on that fact. One of the best things about Charlie is he doesn't hover. He left me alone to unpack and get settled, a feat that would have been altogether impossible for my mother. It was nice to be alone, not to have to smile and look pleased, a relief to stare dejectedly out the window at the sheeting rain, and let just a few tears escape. I wasn't in the mood to go on a real crying jag. I would save that for bedtime, when I would have to think about the coming morning. Forks High School had a frightening total of only 357, now 58, students. There were more than 700 people in my junior class alone back home. Wow. All of the kids here had grown up together. The grandparents had been toddlers together. I would be the new girl from the big city, a curiosity, a freak. Maybe, if I looked like a girl from Phoenix should, I could work this to my advantage. But physically, I'd never fit in anywhere. I should be tan, sporty, blonde, a volleyball player, or a cheerleader perhaps. All the things that go out with the living in the valley of the sun. Instead, I was ivory-skinned, without even the excuse of blue eyes or red hair, despite the constant sunshine. I'd always been slender, but soft somehow. Obviously not an athlete. I didn't have the necessary hand-eye coordination to play sports without humiliating myself, and harming both myself and anyone else who stood too close. I can relate to that, especially with volleyball. When I finished putting my clothes in the old pine dresser, I took my bag out of bathroom necessities and went to the communal bathroom to clean myself up after the day of travel. I looked at my face in the mirror as I brushed through my tangled, damp hair. Maybe it was the light, but already I looked sour, unhealthy. My skin could be pretty. It was very clear, almost translucent looking, but it all depended on the color. I had no color here. Facing my pallid reflection in the mirror, I was forced to admit that I was lying to myself. It wasn't just physically that I never fit in. If I couldn't find a niche in a school with 3,000 people, what were my chances here? I didn't relate well to people my age. Maybe the truth was that I didn't relate to people, period. Even my mother, who was closer to than anyone on the planet, was never in harmony with me, never exactly on the same page. Sometimes I wondered if I was seeing the same things through my eyes that the rest of the world was seeing through theirs. Maybe there was a glitch in my brain. But the cause didn't matter. All that mattered was the effect. Tomorrow would be just beginning. 1 second, guys. I'm gonna get some water. I didn't sleep well that night, even after I was done crying. The constant whooshing of the rain and the wind across the roof wouldn't fade into the background. I pulled the faded old quilt over my head and later added the pillow too, but I couldn't fall asleep until after midnight, when the rain finally settled into a quieter drizzle. Thick fog was all I could see out my window in the morning, and I could feel the claustrophobia creeping up on me. You could never see the sky here. It was like a cage. Breakfast with Charlie was a quiet event. He wished me good luck at school. I thanked him, knowing his hope was wasted. Good luck tended to avoid me. Charlie left first, off to the police station that was his wife and family, meaning he was married to his work. After he left, I sat on the old square oak table and one of the 3 unmatching chairs and examined his small kitchen. With its dark paneled walls, bright yellow cabinets, and white linoleum floors. Nothing was changed. My mother had painted the cabinets 18 years ago in an attempt to bring some sunshine into our house. Over the small fireplace in the adjoining handkerchief-sized family room was a row of pictures. First, a wedding picture of Charlie and my mom in Las Vegas. I got married in Vegas, alright. Then one of the three of us in the hospital after I was born, taken by health warners, followed by the procession. I'm going to try to say that again. Followed by the procession of my school pictures up to the last years. Those were embarrassing to look at. I would have to see what I could do to get Charlie to put them somewhere else, at least while I was living here. It was impossible, being in this house, not to realize that Charlie had never gotten over my mom. It made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to be too early to school, but I couldn't stay in the house anymore. I donned my jacket, which had the feel of a biohazard suit, and headed out into the rain. It was just drizzling still, not soaking me through immediately as I reached for the house key that was always hidden under the eave by the door. What's an eave? If you guys know what an eave is down in the comment section below, please let me know. And locked up. The sloshing of my new waterproof boots was unnerving. I missed the normal crunch of gravel as I walked. I couldn't pause and admire my truck again as I wanted. I was in a hurry to get out of the misty wet that swirled around. My head clung to my hair under my hood. Inside the truck, it was nice and dry. Either Billy or Charlie had obviously cleaned it up. With a tan upholstered seat. Inside the truck, it was nice and dry. Either Billy or Charlie had obviously cleaned it up, but the tan upholstered seats still smelled faintly of tobacco, gasoline, and peppermint. Okay. The engine started quickly, to my relief, but loudly, roaring to life, and then idling at top volume. Well, a truck this old was bound to have a flaw. The antique radio worked, a plus I hadn't expected. Finding the school wasn't difficult, though I'd never been there before. The school was, like most other things, just off the highway. It was not obvious that it was a school, only a sign, which declared it to be Forks High School, made me stop. It looked like a collection of matching houses, but with maroon-colored bricks. It's kind of ugly. There were so many trees and shrubs I couldn't see its size at first. Where was the feel of the institution? I wondered nostalgically. Where were the chain link fences, the metal detectors? Damn, girl. What kind of schools did you have to go to? I parked in front of the first building, which had a small sign over the doors reading front office. No one else was parked there, so I was sure it was off limits. But I decided I'd get directions instead of circling around in the rain like an idiot. I stepped unwillingly out of the toasty truck cab and walked down a little stone path lined with dark hedges. I took a deep breath before opening the door. Inside, it was brightly lit and warmer than I'd hoped. The office was small, a little waiting area with padded folding chairs, orange-flecked commercial carpet, notices and awards cluttering the walls, a big clock ticking loudly. Plants grew everywhere in the large plastic pots, as if there wasn't enough greenery outside. The room was cut in half by a long counter, cluttered with wire baskets full of papers and brightly colored flyers taped to its front. There were 3 desks behind the counter, one of which was manned by a large, red-haired woman wearing glasses. She was wearing a purple t-shirt, which immediately made me feel overdressed. The red-haired woman looked up. "Can I help you?" "I'm Isabella Swan. I informed her, and saw the immediate awareness in her light in her eyes. As expected, a topic of gossip, no wonder, no doubt. Daughter of the chief's flighty ex-wife come home at last. Of course, she said. She dug through a precariously stacked pile of documents on her desk until she found the one she was looking for. I have your schedule right here and a map of the school. She brought several sheets to the counter to show me. She went through my classes for me, highlighting the best route to each on the map, and gave me a slip to have each teacher sign, which I was to bring back at the end of the day. She smiled at me and hoped, like Charlie, that I'd like it here in Forks. I smiled back as convincingly as I could. When I went back out to my truck, other students were starting to arrive. I drove around school following the line of traffic. I was glad to see that most of the cars were older like mine, nothing flashing. At home, I lived in one of the few lower-income neighborhoods that are included in the Paradise Valley District. It was a common thing to see a new Mercedes or Porsche in the student lot. The nicest cars here was a shiny Volvo, and it stood out. Oh, that is. Still, I cut the engine as soon as I was in a spot, so the thunderous volume wouldn't draw attention to me. I looked at the map in the truck, trying to memorize it now. Hopefully I wouldn't have to walk around with it stuck in front of my nose all day. I stuffed everything in my bag, sewn the strap over my shoulder, and sucked in a huge breath. I can do this, I lied to myself feebly. Lost my spot. 1 second, I'm so sorry. No one was going to bite me. I finally exhaled and stepped out of the truck. I kept my face pulled back into the hood as I walked to the sidewalk, crowded with teenagers. Well, duh, you're in high school. Of course it's going to be crowded with teenagers. My plain black jacket didn't stand out, I noticed with relief. Once I got around the cafeteria, Building 3 was easy to spot. A large black 3 was painted on a white square on the east corner. I felt my breathing gradually creeping toward hyperventilation as I approached the door. I tried holding my breath as I followed two unisex raincoats through the door. The classroom was small. The people in front of me stopped just inside the door to hang up their coats on a long row of hooks. I copied them. They were two girls, one a porcelain-colored blonde, the other also a pale, light brown hair. At least my skin wouldn't be a standout here. I took the slip up to the teacher, a tall, balding man whose desk had a nameplate identifying him as Mr. Mason. He gawked at me when he saw my name. Not an encouraging response. And of course I flushed tomato red. But at least he sent me to an empty desk at the back without introducing me to the class. It was harder for my new classmates to stare at me in the back, but somehow they managed. I kept my eyes down, reading. I kept my eyes down on the reading list the teacher had given me. It was fairly basic. Bronte, Shakespeare, Chaucer, Faulkner. I'd already read everything. That was comforting and boring. I wonder if my mom would send me my folder of old essays, or if she would just think that was cheating. I went through different arguments with her in my head while the teacher droned on. While the bell rang, a nasal buzzing sound. A gangly boy with skin problems and hair black as an oil slick leaned across the aisle to talk to me. You're Isabella Swan, aren't you? He looked over at the... Yeah, he looked like the overly helpful chess club type. Bella, I corrected. Everyone within a 3-seat radius turned to look at me. What's your next class? I had a check in my bag. Government with Jefferson in Building 6. There was nowhere to look without meeting curious eyes. I'm heading down to Building 4. I'm headed toward Building 4. I can show you the way. Definitely over hopeful. I'm Eric, he added. I smiled tentatively. Thanks. We got our jackets and headed out into the rain, which I picked up. I could have sworn several people behind us were walking close enough to eavesdrop. I hoped I wasn't getting paranoid. So, is this a lot different than Phoenix, huh? Yes. Very. It doesn't rain much over there, does it? 3 or 4 times a year. Wow. What must that be like, he wondered. Sunny, I told him. You don't look very tan. My mother is part albino. He studied my face apprehensively and I sighed. It looked like clouds and a sense of humor didn't mix. A few months of this and I'd forget how to use sarcasm. We walked back around the cafeteria to the south building by the gym. Eric walked me right to the door, though it was clearly marked. Well, good luck, he said as I touched the handle. Maybe we'll have some other classes together, he sounded hopeful. I smiled at him vaguely and went inside. The rest of the morning passed in about the same fashion. My trigonometry teacher, Mr. Varner, who I have hated anyway just because of the subjects he taught, was the only one who made me stand in front of the class and introduce myself. I stammered, blushed, and tripped over my own boots on the way to my seat. After 2 classes, I started to recognize several of the faces in each class. There was always someone braver than the others who would introduce themselves and ask me questions about how I was liking forks. I tried to be diplomatic, but mostly I just lied a lot. At least I never needed the map. One girl sat next to me in both Czech and Spanish, and she walked with me to the cafeteria for lunch. She was tiny, several inches shorter than me, shorter than my 5 feet 4 inches. But her wildly curly hair, dark hair, made up for a lot of the difference between her heights. I couldn't remember her name, so I smiled and nodded as she prattled about teachers and classes. I didn't try to keep up. We sat at the end of a full table with several of her friends, who she introduced me to. I forgot all their names as soon as she spoke with them. They seemed impressed by her bravery in speaking to me. The boy from Eric, waved at me from across the room. It was there, sitting in the lunchroom, trying to make conversation with 7 curious strangers, that I first saw them. They were sitting in the corner